What's going on, guys? It's Tony, Urban Girl Scout Media, living the dream as always, and coming in today to talk about, freedom of speech. Yeah, I'm going there. So, I've been trying very hard over the past 6 months, maybe, to reduce my speaking and recording of anything political, pandemic, anything like that, because for the most part, the world is so divided and there's so many places you can go to get information that only lines up with what you believe. Not the facts, but information that lines up with what you believe, that I think it's a little toxic to talk about. But I have to talk about this because this is one of those things that is just blowing my mind. So it is lunchtime on January 26th and I'm recording this. And I gotta be honest, man, like, there's a ton of people that are still going on social media and are confused, let's just start there, confused about what it means to have freedom of speech. So let's start with this. Freedom of speech isn't necessarily what people think it is. When you go onto a social media application or when you start working at a job, things like that, there are rules and codes of conduct that you agree to, and those can supersede freedom of speech based on what you agree to. So, in the past couple of weeks, the president, the MyPillow guy, people on Parler, things like that, they're finding out what those terms of agreement actually mean. And they are, like, the president has been banned from almost all social media applications, which is very, very unprecedented for someone to be banned because they are that toxic across all major platforms. Like for Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all these to say no more. Even Pinterest, I think, is in on this ban. Like they're done. And you could say that there's some political opportunists within that. I don't care. That's not my personal belief. My personal beliefs are that, the rules were broken. And I was looking at Facebook today because obviously that's the greatest place to go and have a serious conversation. And I saw all these people who were really upset that the MyPillow guy was banned from Twitter because he continues to push false and dangerous narratives about the election and other things that my guess is he was given more than one warning, because I've seen this guy in the news more than once about this shit. And there's a lot of people who are just, well, now we live in socialist, communist, anti-progressive, like they're just taking words to put them together. There was one person, Brenda, who even tried to compare it to what happens in Iran and tried to compare it to like Kathy Griffin a few years ago and the shit that she said about the president. Although, if you actually look at it in context, you'll realize that Kathy Griffin was 100% not as clearly was not as much of a danger as these other people are. So that's the first thing, is we have to understand what the terms of use are that we're agreeing to. Because a lot of people don't realize when you go onto these apps and you sign up like that, you're agreeing to a lot of stuff. There's a South Park episode about this that basically, the human centipede, where they continue to agree to things, they're not realizing what they're agreeing to. And there's no tricks with this freedom of speech shit. It's real simple. If I got on here right now onto YouTube and all these, I think that there would be a line that I wouldn't be able to cross where they would say, okay, we got to take your account down. Everyone is subject to that. So here comes where I get a little frustrated. Because while I do believe it's important for us to have that freedom, and I do believe that it is important for us to be able to express ourselves, we have to understand it comes with a responsibility. Freedom given is freedom earned. A lot of people paid the price over the course of the existence of the planet for us to understand what it means to have free speech. But if you're going on and spouting very dangerous rhetoric, inciting coups or riots or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And I don't care if you're left, right, up, down, white, black, yellow, purple, blue, gay, straight, what religion, male, female. I don't care what your demographics as a human are. If you are spouting false, baseless accusations that are turning out to be incredibly dangerous, you deserve the punishment. But when you see these people who, a lot of them are very, very much on the Trump side of the political spectrum, which is fine because like they wouldn't be voicing their frustration if their guy hadn't been the target of it. But when they talk about these things, and like I'm going to use Brenda here for a moment because Brenda, I hope you hear this. You sound like someone that skipped grade school social studies, college and high school government classes, and you sound like someone who just read something on Parler and took that as the gospel. You're a fucking idiot. Not just you, Brenda, but really a lot of people share the same thoughts as you. You guys are you guys are showing that you're stupid. I don't believe you're full-fledged stupid. I just think on this one subject, you're very ignorant. And I'm ignorant too, but I'm willing to admit it. I know that if I say Brenda's last name, I could get in trouble. I know that if I started spouting off baseless and dangerous false information and false news, I could get in a lot of trouble. That's the world we live in. And it's so great because if you go, and I did this, Brenda, I'm not going to say her last name, but Brenda, who made these comments, I went and looked at her Facebook page. And it's really funny, and I've done this with a lot of people who I've seen make these kinds of comments about freedom of speech apparently isn't a thing anymore. Go look at their actual page. Not what they're commenting on that news story, but their page. Scroll down to some of the last major news stories in our country. I don't know, like the Capitol storming. Brenda had some things to say in support of those people. Other people that I have done the same review seem to have thought it was okay. They are only upset because their guy didn't win, because their guy didn't get his way, and because when democracy doesn't work for them, they're going to throw a temper tantrum. I love saying this, and it's the truth about these people. Chodes be choden. That's truly what they're doing. So, I really don't give a shit if you understand what freedom of speech in terms of agreement mean. What I do care about is that when you go onto social media and you cry about how freedom of speech is being taken away, and then you give your examples, and it's, well, the MyPillow guy can't go on, and even though it's been confirmed by several different courts and groups that the election was true, the results were legit, he's still going to go on there and push that false claim. He has to be held accountable. And it's funny that they get upset about this censoring of freedom of speech when it's this dangerous stuff, but when the president was talking about, I don't know, grabbing them by the pussy, talking about the Proud Boys, talking about downplaying the pandemic, everybody was fine with going on and saying whatever they wanted. But when it's the president who actually has to follow the rules, or one of the president's homeboys, that's an issue. Kind of see the hypocrisy there, don't you, Brenda? So, guys, you got to understand what these rules mean. You got to understand what you're signing up for. You got to understand that there are certain things that these companies are going to put in place to protect themselves. That's just the way it works. And I'm going to be honest, I do disagree with the Trump supporter base on just about everything they stand for. I don't come out and speak on it very much because these are the same people that would report my information or report my videos, but then would also go on and do the exact same fucking thing. They just don't understand the hypocrisy and the irony of it. Remember a few years ago when the former president, Mr. Trump, was elected, and all of his supporters just viciously, he's your president, deal with it. Well, guys, he's no longer our president. Deal with it. And don't be a simp. Don't be a Brenda. Don't be a Karen. Don't be a Chaz. Don't be one of these fucking idiots that's coming out here and you're reading 3 lines of an article by someone that worked at Parler before it was shut down, and all of a sudden you think you're a fucking expert. Like you read one history book and you find the few pieces of information in the hundreds of pieces of information that make you feel like you're right, and then you focus on that. There are rules. Like, if I walk into your home, Brenda, and I call you a cunt to your face, you have the right to say, hey, look, we don't do that in our house, you gotta leave. If I go on social media, Brenda, and call you a chode, and start tagging you in all these things that are just false, saying that you do this, you do that, I believe you have rights to protect that from continuing. I mean, that's what I've learned. And I'm not sitting here saying that I go through and read all the terms of agreement to use for all these applications. But I'm also saying that I understand the basic concept of boundaries and parameters. And I understand the basic concept of respect. Now, someone's going to likely start thinking, well, you're not respecting Brenda, because Brenda doesn't respect America. And I'm not here to be a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not here to be left, right, up, down. I'm not here to be anything other than an American. The past 4 years, we've really become divided. Not just in our political beliefs, but in just life. And this pandemic has definitely drove us even further apart. People are scared. So rather than trying to support a man who, and Brenda, just so you know, he would grab you by the pussy. He would grab you by the pussy. That's not locker room talk. That's President Trump talk. He would grab you by the pussy. But that's okay, Brenda, because you clearly are all about the quote-unquote freedom of speech. That means you can act any way you want, say anything you want. I get it. I love that Brenda brought up Iran. I love that Brenda brought up Kathy Griffin. It just, like, the shit that we're using to try and tie these things together to make a point. Like, QAnon really believes that Tom Hanks is out here sucking down the blood of children, and that's why he isn't dying or getting older, whatever the fuck it is. Do you understand the absurdity in that? So, I really encourage everybody to do 2 things. 1, try and detach as much as you can from politics. I was making a lot of content for a while about politics. I really was. And I got to the point where I realized it's a waste of my time. This whole rant here, waste of my time. The other thing that I would really encourage people to do is understand what you're agreeing to. I'm sure if Brenda, and she's going to reply to my comment, I don't give a shit. She'll at some point say something along the lines of, well, yada, 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 Iran, Kathy Griffin, this, that, the other thing. What I'm really hearing from Brenda is, well, I can't go online and be a hatred, racist human being. And now the president is former president, and it's not fair. That's what you sound like, Brenda. That's what a lot of you sound like. Go ahead and report me. Go ahead and say something about this video. Go ahead and whatever. I don't really give a shit. I just think it's hilarious how there's a lot of kids in school that have a better understanding of what user agreements, freedom of speech, the Constitution, Bill of Amendments, like, or Bill of Rights. I just, there's kids that literally have a better understanding than some of these old ass adults that are getting online, and like they're literally just spouting all this shit that you look like the people in the 60s that were opposing the civil rights movement. That's what you look like to me. You look like these petulant, spoiled brat children that are throwing temper tantrums because you lost at a fucking game of checkers and you don't understand that you don't always get your way just because you're white, Brenda. Don't always get your way. So there you go. I'm fired up. I'm pissed off. Chodes be chodin. Karens and Brendas be Karens and Brendas. And that's the world we're going to live in. I really don't give a shit what you believe in as long as you don't believe in toxic things. And there's a difference between toxic and opposing views. A lot of people have a hard time understanding that. And I think that's one of the other big issues we've got. But fuck, I don't know, guys. At this point, you're either going to agree with me that we all need to kind of understand what the rules are here, or you're going to disagree with me and say, well, you can't censor someone. You can, because if we had freedom of speech, true freedom of speech, like you're implying, then TV networks would say whatever they want. There would be a lot more, I don't know, graphic content out there. Kids would not be shielded from things that are being created on the content. We wouldn't have these rules about keeping wording and responses and comments respectful on social media. Like, if we had this true no holds barred, no rules attached freedom of speech that people like Brenda believe in, I'm pretty sure the world would be a fucked up place. Like, I'm pretty sure that the world would be a lot worse than it is right now. So that's what I got. Comment below if you agree with me. Comment below if you disagree with me. I won't delete any comments. So if you think I'm wrong, go for it. Just keep in mind that you agreed to certain things with YouTube when you decided to sign in and log on and all that shit. So if you go over the rail and you go too far, you're the one that has to pay the price. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, rate, download, comment, share. Just do some of the shit through social media to help me grow this page. And hopefully I don't have to do too many more of these fucking talks. I mean, that's the truth. It's like, I love talking, obviously. Hate talking about politics. I think it's just a joke at this point, and a lot of it comes from just our inability to understand what the actual rules are. Thanks, guys.